All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
I love an audience that's happy to see me come back. Folks, please. All right. I've got no place to be, so please continue. I'm overwhelmed, guys. We do have guests though today. We have guests, so please, if you would, thank you, please. All right. I mean, it's as though somebody is just sitting there and pressing the applause button for recorded applause the entire time. Guys, I've got a show to do. All right. Wow. It's great to be missed. Kim is here. Kim, how are you?
Good. How are you? Welcome.
Kim, how are you?
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 Yes. You did a great job yesterday, Kim. I watched every bit of it. I thought you did a very nice job filling in. And you did a great job on Monday also. So,
well, thank you.
Great jobs done. Albert is here, the commissioner of Marx Madness.
Albert, thank you.
There was only one thing I thought missing from yesterday and Monday's show. And I'll tell you what that thing is now. I'm not happy about it, but I'm just going to mention it. In saying, we'll be back. Mark will be back on Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. And John Rothmann will be on, and you teased was going to be David Dayen's going to be on from the American Prospect. We got a really great show today. But you didn't mention the return of Marx Madness, which I just
what?
That's
not true. I did. I said Marx Madness continues tomorrow.
Oh, you did? You did? Okay.
It.
I didn't hear that.
My bad. I'm sorry.
I guess I didn't hear that part.
You didn't watch the whole thing.
You're right. I didn't. I think I said I watched the whole thing. I watched a little bit, and it seemed as though I'd watched the whole thing. All right. It was. But look, the point is that Kim did, I guess, mention what to me is the most important part of this time of year. And that is the start of something that we're well into now for it's been about a week. Commish, do you have any thoughts on Marx Madness thus far before I drop the latest?
It's a Sweet 16, so it's getting down to the wire at this time. So it's make it or break it time for your brackets. So just maybe just double check how you're doing, and then after tonight, we'll have another update. So
that's the word from the commish. Mike Ekstrom with super sticker for $20. Wow, we need it. Been a rough month or so financially on this show. So very much appreciated. And a big shout out to Mike Ekstrom.
Big shout out.
My favorite Mike of the day so far. Luis with a $4.99 super chat saying, irony, a dude declared Liberation Day at the same time pushing to impose his rule on sovereign nations. How the world sees MAGA equals make America go away. Yeah, it does. Sadly. We're on, we'll get to all of that in a minute. Right now, I'm doing Marx Madness. Now, and how dare you interrupt? These are the Sweet 16 picks in Marx Madness. You'll vote for either. Or you'll vote for, that's right, either.
Oh, that's not coming through, Mark.
It's not. All right, hold on a second. Hold on 1 second.
We'll vote for what?
God. I know what the problem is. Wow. I'm outraged by this. I really am. And
it's a bummer.
I need to blame somebody, though, and I just have to figure out who
I'll
to blame.
sacrifice myself. Go ahead. It's all right.
I think let me just ask you, Albert, if you can. Sorry, guys. And then I'm going to get to Elon
I do
Musk.
have one of the two, I believe. Let me look through my.
I've got them if need be. I think.
Marx Madness continues indeed.
It's frustrating. Do you hear this now?
So just a yes or no.
No, you don't.
Yes, we hear that.
You hear that? Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, Albert, can you cut all that stuff out? Make this show look like it's smooth and being run by somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. Can you do that? All right, here, let's do it
Now,
again.
Mark's Madness.
All right.
I can't believe it.
You'll vote for either,
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
or you'll vote for.
You do not know what you are talking about.
So in the post section of our YouTube channel, you'll vote for either,
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
or.
You do not know what you are talking about.
It's concepts of a plan versus you do not know what you were talking about. It is voting till midnight. Yeah, man, tell you. Albert will update the voting through the hour and also through the day. And again, you got till midnight tonight. And we will have 2 more drops for you next hour. Now, I do want to get to a lot that's going on, and we'll get to a bunch of it probably on some level with John Rothmann, but I just want to visit it quickly here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is the word. Elon's heat shield has melted, says Mark Petrie for $12 with a super chat. Thank you for that, Mark. Yeah, there was going to be a moment, and this is going to happen, I would suggest, with Donald Trump as well. We want to talk to Rothmann about that. And you could even argue that the day may be coming quickly with Donald Trump as a result of the Wisconsin election results and also the mess that's being made in government and the economy. So that the latter, the economy, may take another month to kind of realize its political toxicity on the electorate. But it is true, you knew that there was going to be a moment where people were going to fall out of love with Musk. I'm talking about people in power. And I think that that's happened as a result of the Wisconsin thing. I mean, everything's great until you start to lose. And when you start to lose, you get a stink on you, and then nobody wants that stink on them. And so you get that guilt by association. And the GOP has wrapped themselves in Musk and in Trump. So their success becomes GOP success, and their failure becomes their failure. That is to say, the Trump-Musk failure becomes the GOP failure. So make no mistake, the damage has been substantial, profound. The dismantling of the U.S. government has been immense, reckless, wanton. But it will end, and it may be that as a result of this Wisconsin election, Musk's power has begun to ebb. Now, he still has all that money and influence. And as you know, he's a major American contractor, government contractor. More contracts have accrued to him than when the administration started just a couple of months ago. But now, insiders are saying that Elon Musk is on his way out. Trump has reportedly told his inner circle that billionaire Elon Musk, this is from AP, who have been working as the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, which, as you know, should never have existed to begin with, will soon leave the administration. Both Trump and Musk have come to the agreement that Musk will leave and go back to his business dealings. This is the latest from Associated Press. They got it from Politico. It's not clear when Musk might make his exit. I'm chuckling because, maybe it's a slow exit in which he can, do a little bit more. Great for America. Under the leadership of Musk, the DOGE task force has gutted the federal workforce, firing tens of thousands of civil servants in jobs that include disaster response, critical weather updates, health services, and more. One senior administration official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said that the Musk world will still extend into the Oval Office, and Musk will still have an informal advisory role. But the word is that Musk is out, at least in a formal role. At least that's the breaking news of this moment. The word overnight, as you know, involved the counting of the vote in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court race there, very important to Musk, very important to the GOP. Musk went there personally, dumped $25 million into that race. It's an extraordinary thing. But Susan Crawford, the Democratic-backed candidate, has won Wisconsin's Supreme Court race. So there is a liberal majority that maintains itself in that key battleground state of Wisconsin. And Albert, we have a you've got something on this from CNN, don't you? Because this adds polling to this that also reflects the lack of popularity when it comes to Elon Musk. I mean, Musk has been such a wrecking ball that you had to know that on some level that was going to come back to haunt them. And this may be the first. I'm sorry.
He poured $28 million into this race.
Yeah,
Wrote
I said
checks
$25
for $1 million.
million.
Oh yeah, millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
And so it's nice to see, at this very moment, that the money didn't matter, that the anti-Musk sentiment. If it had anything to do with Musk, perhaps one candidate was truly better than the other, or maybe people just hate Elon Musk right now.
Go ahead, Albert. Run the video if you would, please.
Big in this race to sway the Supreme Court race there. And he also went to Wisconsin, which may honestly have backfired.
Yeah, I think it may have backfired. Look, I think if there's one thing we should be taking away from the results in Wisconsin and the polling that we have from Wisconsin and national, if you are a Republican candidate running in a swing state, you don't want Elon Musk anywhere near you. Yes, maybe you like the money, but you do not want his presence in your state. Why is that? Elon Musk, simply put, is an unpopular guy. He is political poison. Look in Wisconsin, his net favorable rating, minus 12 points, 12 points underwater. That is an even worse number when you look nationally. Look at that. It's minus 17 points. So if there's one big lesson to take away from Wisconsin is Elon Musk does not help Republicans when he shows up. If anything, the data suggests that he hurts them. Republicans, stay clear of Elon Musk if you want to win in a swing state, at least in terms of his physical appearance in your state.
All right, what do we see
Albert,
in terms
stop
of
it for a
swings in
second.
Florida?
I have 2 points. First, he's basically said what we just said, although he put some numbers on it, which I think is important and interesting. The second thing is, I've never seen anyone on television speak more with their hands and with the physical delivery that guy has.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Does he go on, Albert? I haven't seen the rest of it, but just play a little bit because he just did this and that and this and this and that and that and this and that. He's like a semaphore, like, those people with the flags. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
At
Albert.
the airport?
We saw the Republican Randy Fine win by 14. That's a swing of 16 points. But that's not anywhere near the swing we saw in Florida 1. Look at that. Donald Trump won it by 37 points. The Republican won last night, but only by 15. That's a 22-point swing. We're talking about an average 19-point swing from the baseline back in 2024 in just a matter of 4 or 5 months. These are massive shifts. These are massive shifts to the left. Democrats really have to like this, even if the Republicans get into the majority in terms of what this potentially means down the road. You take this type of swing, you put it on some swing districts, that's very good news for Democrats.
Now,
yeah, so even in the loss is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Democrats have good news by not losing
headway, right?
by as much. Yeah. So
it's a bright spot. At this point, we'll take any bright spot we can get.
It's been a lean period for the Democrats. That's for sure. So Kim's right. We'll take it. I'm not a Democrat or registered Democrat, but I certainly think that's the more sensible party at this point. And sadly, that's the only option we have. So to review, Musk loses the Wisconsin race. Republicans maintain seats in Florida. The big thing I would also say, and we'll talk to Rothmann about this, that these are heavily gerrymandered districts. So you really were never going to see a Democrat, I don't think, win those districts. But in those numbers, you see the way in which Democrats still gain ground even as they lose. So now to Washington and another piece of
The Mark Thompson Show.
Quickly to Washington and another piece of history. Cory Booker just finished a record speech in the Senate, record for length, went 25 hours. And there's a certain irony in this because the reigning record holder was this horrible segregationist who was maintaining the floor for as long as he had maintained it to filibuster the Civil Rights Act. And this is a guy who's an unapologetic racist and segregationist. And I just think there's a deliciousness in the fact that a black senator, Cory Booker, is the one who broke his record on the Senate. And he broke it not to filibuster a piece of legislation, but to protest the agenda of the Trump administration, to make a point. And I think it really instructive, because at a time when Democrats really don't have a method to make a point, they have no legislative leverage, this is the way you make the point. You grab the news cycle with this. And, you know, Chuck Schumer, you know, hunched over a microphone yelling, "We will win, we will win." I mean, again, as I've said, Democrats need a Rothmann type guy if you want just kind of an analog to Schumer. Schumer shouldn't be out in the public. He shouldn't be messaging. He's not a message guy. He's not a media-friendly guy. You need a guy with passion, a Bernie Sanders. I mentioned Rothmann because you'll see it in a few minutes on this show, just the way he speaks with this passion. And John and I disagree on a bunch of stuff, but wow, like a messenger like that, there's a theater to the presentation. And Cory Booker understands that you can seize the moment. And he did. Even in the minority party, he set a record with his speech, what his speech was about. Thurman's speech, he's a segregationist from years ago. He read parts of the encyclopedia, I think, and a phone book. But Booker spoke eloquently for 25 hours.
It's crazy. And never went to the bathroom.
That I don't understand.
I don't know
Albert,
how that happened.
I don't want to know how it happened. Albert, you have some stuff on this? Go ahead and run it, please.
Tonight at 7:19 p.m. Eastern, Senator Booker broke the record for the longest speech ever given by a United States senator. The previous record was set by arch segregationist Strom Thurmond, who tried to filibuster the Civil Rights Act in 1957. That speech lasted 24 hours and 18 minutes, but it included things like him reading from the encyclopedia and him taking a bathroom break. Senator Cory Booker did nothing like either of those things. Tonight, Senator Booker blew past Thurman's record. He spoke until 8:04 p.m. for a total of 25 hours and 4 minutes.
I heard I'm seeing in the chat. I heard he had a catheter, says D. Elliott. Oh. He wore a catheter, says Ivy Kaminsky. Oh, okay. That's great.
Gross.
I got to get don't they stick a tube up your private
that's right.
Yeah, dude,
and then it attaches to a little bag. I would think that would be incorrect.
No, he did not have a catheter.
Maybe an
he might have
diaper?
had a catheter adjacent kind of device, but there's no way somebody stuck a tube up that guy's pee-pee. Okay, I'm just being straight about it.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, you know.
I have some audio from it if you want to check it out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we have two pieces, so here's the second piece of tape. This is Booker from last night.
He said for us to go out and cause some good trouble, necessary trouble, to redeem the soul of our nation. I want you to redeem the dream. Let's be bold in America, not to mean and degrade Americans, not divide us against each other. Let's be bolder in America with a vision that inspires, with hope that starts with the people of the United States of America. That's how this country started. We, the people. Let's get back to the ideals that others are threatening. Let's get back to our founding documents, that those imperfect geniuses had some very special words at the end of the Declaration of Independence. It was one of the greatest in all of humanity declarations of interdependence. When our founders said we must mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We need that now from all Americans. This is a moral moment. It's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.
There it is. quite an extraordinary piece of history. And of course, that's John Lewis that he's quoting when he says, get into good trouble. That's John Lewis who said that. And it quite extraordinary. Noe Marie, an OG of this show, with a $5 super chat, says, Booker said he fasted since Friday and dehydrated himself, which helped the bathroom situation. Noe here with the news you need, she says. It's also just suggested in the chat, just on the follow-up about his catheter. There are condom-like catheters, says Karen Q. They're non-invasive.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, you guys know a lot about catheters. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
Did he ever eat? Asks Sandy. If I'm going to talk nonstop for 25 hours, says Sandy, I'm pretty sure I'd get hungry at some point. No, he was on a fast. He fasted into it and isn't that right? We just heard that. I think he fasted through the period. So, Teacher Lori says from ABC News, the White House is calling the report about Elon Musk stepping down from the Department of Government Efficiency garbage. The White House is denying that Elon already stepped down. So, she says, it must be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So proud of Cory Booker and Wisconsin this week, says Janny Chi. And San Jose Lola says, happy for Wisconsin result, disappointed but not surprised by Florida. Yeah, the Florida thing I think was more predictable, but I understand. So that's a little piece of what's happening in Washington, at least as far as the Senate is concerned. I mean, that was a piece of history. It was also a way to make some noise. As I say, I think Booker was onto something there. Musk is, if not out, let me just speak about Elon Musk for a moment, because there is big news out of Elon Musk.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Elon Musk is in trouble, and here's why. He lost in Wisconsin, and the polling on that loss and all the polling that we've seen nationwide indicates that there's a stink about Elon Musk. And sadly, he's done so much damage to government. He's been allowed to go after government with a wantonness, a recklessness. It is
like a wanton killing.
It is pretty bad. Yeah. Like a wanton killing.
Their envy, wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm going to have to look that one up.
So anyway, he has gone about it that way and caused a lot of damage. I'm talking about the end of expertise, getting rid of scientists, closing down NIH, CDC, closing down the administrative institutions associated with severe weather warnings. FEMA is being folded up, USAID, all the VOA, all of the aspects of soft power that's associated with America's reach internationally, that's all going away.
He looks really old in that picture.
He does look a little bit older in that picture. You're right. He's wearing his MAGA hat. And the political part of why Musk is in trouble is something that's associated with that Wisconsin stuff and with the polling. But there's a financial part of what's happening with Musk that could spell real trouble. And that's associated with Twitter. There was a massive breach, this is breaking news, of Elon Musk's X, or Twitter. 200 million users' email addresses were released onto the dark web, and it will widely be out there for people to get a hold of. So his cybersecurity team discovered a hacking message on a prominent breach forums hacking post from a poster named Thinking One. The post included 34 gig containing more than 201 million entries of data reportedly belonging to X users. The data includes plenty of metadata on each account, plus the email addresses connected to each account. This leak is huge. It's not clear how the breach happened, but here is why it's way more than they have your email address.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a real person, Kim. You use Twitter and you have an email address attached to it. You're an actual person. Same with me, same with Albert, same with many who are still on that platform, even if you don't use it much because of Musk or whatever. But Musk has represented a certain number of users, many of which are probably bots. Why is that important? Because Musk just sold Twitter to his AI company.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a lot of money for Twitter based on the number of active users on the platform and the number of users overall. He sold it to his AI platform. And you can say, well, what does it matter whether they're real or not? He's selling to himself. It matters because all that money is not his. That's investor money. There's a board of directors involved. That is a crime, what he's doing. If he's misrepresented the number of users on the platform, if he has dramatically amplified those numbers, he is in violation of the law and he'll be sued. But I mean, big time sued.
But how do you tell which ones are bots and which ones are real people?
Because of the data breach. That's why I'm saying it. It's because there's an email address associated with it. In this data breach, you are going to find all of these X users who aren't real people. They're bots. So this is huge. And again, it's not so much that there was a breach of your personal information, as much as it is that it's a peek inside who is actually a person and who is just a bot.
I guess I don't know how bots are formed. Like, do they have fake email addresses? And how would you know if it's a bot, if it has a fake email? It'll be interesting to see how they determine that.
Yeah, well, I'll just, I don't want to get into a heavy thing on it because I'm certainly out of my depth on it for the most part, but I just know that it's obvious. Like I work with marketing people about Instagram accounts on high profile people. And they said, yeah, when you open it up, there are just a bunch of bots in there. 2/3 of this famous person's Instagram followers, 2/3 of them are bots. So it's pretty easy to establish, I guess is what I'm getting at, the bot element. So Musk could have legal exposure is what I'm talking about, and soon. Richard Delamater for $10 Super Chat says, I sold that one share that I bought last week of Tesla stock and made a $20 profit. I'm now claiming status as the only man to have made a profit off Musk. Take that, jerk, he says. And then, of course, that's the third thing that Musk has to worry about, and that's Tesla. Tesla is getting that same stink on it. So it has 10-foot pole marks all over it. People don't want a Tesla. If they have a Tesla, they want to dump it. I have one, and I'm getting rid of it. And I don't even hate Tesla. I think Tesla's a good... The reason I got Tesla, the reason I bought the car was for the charging network. It's better than any other charging network. Straight, full stop. That's the reason I got it. And I don't care now. Now I just want to get rid of the car. It matters because now all Twitter content can be used as training data for Grok AI. Yeah, there's that too, says Mark. So I see Musk as a troubled figure right now, and I guess that's what we're getting. And deny, as the White House does, I think that there's ample evidence that Musk's place at the table may be getting smaller. I mean, he's really come in like he owns the place, because he really does. But I think now you're going to see a revisionist kind of view moving forward as to how Musk works. So Musk, Booker, and the Elon Musk X breach, and life is changing a bit in America. And
The Mark Thompson Show.
I haven't even gotten to the screw-ups with those Venezuelans who were sent to El Salvador. Jay says, it's so obvious, the IP, I missed it. The IP address is the giveaway. There you go. Okay, thank you, Jay. I knew it was it's a simple, obvious thing. I knew that, but thank you for the filling in the detail. But before I get to Rothmann, I do want to mention that Val Kilmer died. And, Val Kilmer was a real part of, I'd say he's one of those actors as well. He played Batman, right? Kim, you
Yeah.
might know more about Val Kilmer than I do.
He played Batman. He was in with the Tom Cruise movie, Maverick.
Top
Come
Gun,
on, Top Gun. Yes, he was in the most recent Top Gun.
That was
and
perhaps his.
He was sick in that one. They had to, make accommodations for him. But his daughter said he had throat cancer, and she said he had overcome it, and they're saying he died of pneumonia. So he was only 65, so young to die.
I think the treatment for his cancer may have had something to do with diminishing his body's ability to beat off the pneumonia, to stave off the effects of the pneumonia. I don't know, but
sure.
But again, as Kim said, he played this naval pilot alongside Cruise, who was like this cocky kind of naval pilot. And when they brought him back for the most recent Top Gun, I think his son dubbed Kilmer's lines. I'm not sure. I don't remember the movie. Did he speak in the movie, Albert? Do you recall? I asked Albert because I'm thinking maybe he saw
the new Top Gun. I think he did. Yeah, he saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it. The new Top Gun.
He spoke.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm not a movie guy. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
he spoke.
He did. I think that his voice was doubled by his son in the documentary that was done about Val Kilmer. So I just guess that his son might have been available to double his voice in the most recent one. Born and raised in California's San Fernando Valley, he studied at the Hollywood Professional School, headed to New York. 21 years old, he became the youngest student at the time to be accepted into Juilliard's drama department. He began his film career in 1984. Top Secret was the comedy, acted in several movies through the 80s, including his breakout role in 1986 Top Gun. Then an incredible streak of successful genre-spanning movies in the 1990s. A superhero film, Batman Forever. He played Batman.
Mm-hmm.
In the Western Tombstone in 1993, he played Doc Holliday. In the biopic in 1991, The Doors, he portrayed Jim Morrison. And a crime film, Michael Mann's 1995 masterpiece, Heat. He did a less lucrative run with a one-man stage show called Citizen Twain about Mark Twain. He deeply admired Mark Twain's works, referenced him frequently in interviews, they say. In all, Kilmer's films made nearly $2 billion at the box office. And the reason that's important is he was that well-known, right? When you're doing that kind of box office, a lot of people know who you are. So he played quite a wide variety of characters. And then in his 2021 documentary called Val, you see him through interactions that he'd videotaped with his family and on film sets for years. Behind-the-scenes footage from Tombstone, Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a great actor. I mean, look. He identified himself as a Christian Scientist. In a 2020 interview, he spoke about his illness through the lens of faith. He said, quote, well, something that was reaffirmed to me on such a level it was almost shocking was a sense of universal love, a kind of power and a different sense of love. It was coming into my consciousness and my body while I was at the hospital.
God, he was so good looking, man.
Oh, he was incredibly handsome. That's absolutely right. And so talented. Yeah. So that's the latest. Val Kilmer, 65 years old. He passes away. A really good actor in the 80s and 90s. Exactly. I mean, I think he defined those decades in many ways, some of the projects he was part of. So, played in the movie A Real Genius, says Mo Direct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, we rest in peace, sir. Val Kilmer passes away at 65.
Thompson Show.
Very excited that John Rothmann joins us on Wednesdays. There's certainly a lot to get to. I will get to the massive screw up. You knew it was going to happen from an administration that has been completely reckless, disorganized, and then fearless about screwing up and just never apologizing for it. You knew they were going to screw up this immigration thing and these deportations. And that's exactly what's happened with these Venezuelans. But we will talk about that and more. Here he is, the former colleague of ours at KGO Radio. Now he's a lecturer, political historian, John Rothmann, everybody. But John, I first we'll start with Wisconsin and Florida, those results overnight reflecting Elon Musk's, the limits of his power, if you want to think of it that way. He threw so much money, tens of millions of dollars.
$22 million in the Wisconsin race alone.
Yeah. And so
why didn't he throw it to the Mark Thompson Show?
A little something. We can be bought. But that repudiation, John, that's pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I've worked in Wisconsin over the years, many elections, I'm thrilled. It does not augur well for the Republicans, and there's no other spin on it. As for Florida, the fact that the margins were cut so drastically in districts that were gerrymandered is absolutely astounding. And you will note that President Trump withdrew the nomination of his nominee for the United Nations, Stefanik, because he understood that that district might go for the Democrats. So clearly the Republicans are on the ropes, but have no fear. Today, in just under, well, about 2 hours from now, Donald Trump will turn the world around. He will announce his tariffs, and we will enter, Mark, a golden age, in the president's words.
Yeah, this is of concern to the entire world because it's likely to throw economies on their side.
Did you hear the Canadian Prime Minister blasting away and saying, we won't be intimidated. We're a sovereign country. We're going to go ahead. But it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. You know what stuns me? It is Congress who has the ability to implement tariffs. And the Congress is definitely silent. And what that's going to mean in 2 years, less than 2 years now for the midterm elections, is that I think the Republicans will face the consequences.
Well, it's actually not completely the solidarity that you saw 2 months ago.
That's for sure.
You're seeing now in Congress, among GOP Congress people, enough, and you only need a handful, as John just has noted, because the margin is so thin. A handful, I'm going to say up to, I think 9 is what I was reading, GOP Congress people who have an issue with turning the keys of the economic kingdom over to Donald Trump in the form
take a look at having on the birthing question
of his
Do you
ability
have a baby?
to just a minute to finish this one thought,
Sure,
please.
sorry.
How dare you interrupt me? It's my show.
You're right.
What I'm speaking of is his control of tariffs. As you know, John, it's a special condition, an emergency declared, that allows him to proclaim these tariffs and actually bring them into a policy, economic policy. Congress has the power to take back that national emergency, do they not?
The Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930 was repealed in 1933 by a Democratic Congress.
And so this is the rumblings of that. That's what I'm reading about. And so it's very possible that this tariff world that he likes to inhabit, I mean, it seems as though, the one hammer that he swings, that and deportation, there may be a come to Jesus moment for him on that with Congress. But anyway, please continue.
No, I was only going to say, take a look, the whole question of whether a woman who is a member of Congress can vote from home because they're breastfeeding a baby. Well, the answer is that the Republican leadership, in line with Donald Trump, said, no, 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 no. And look, everything is on hold now because 9 Republicans in the House of Representatives said, no, we think you ought to give women the right to feed their child on the House floor. Why not, for God's sake?
Yeah, there you are, those 9 Republicans. So you have in Mike Johnson, he's basically saying, you know what, we're not going to do any votes on it. He's sort of recoiled from leading the parade at this point, John. I took that to mean that Mike Johnson, leader of the GOP, leader of the House, begins to see now cracks in the solidarity.
Yeah. May I make one other point? You all know that Peter Marks from the Food and Drug Administration, the top vaccine regulator in the country, who is the one who created the term warp speed in developing the vaccine against COVID, is now out, essentially forced out. And his comments about being forced out, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he called it irresponsible, detrimental to public health, and a genuine danger to our nation's health. And all I can tell you is these kinds of actions ultimately will come back to haunt the administration. My hope is that it will not also haunt all of us. By the way, here in San Francisco, where many of our listeners are based, you know that they're closing the Health and Human Services office here in San Francisco. And it is a disaster because AIDS prevention, the vaccines, the whole 9 yards, all out the window because of the Trump administration. And I think the fallout from all of this and the backlash from all of this is going to be remarkable. By the way, that office here in San Francisco is in the Nancy Pelosi federal office building, which might give you a hint as to why he targeted it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It's funny because one of the things that Musk has declared is that he's going to go after Congress people. He wants to go after legislators. He wants to turn the Doge and Dogettes on Congress people. So in that,
may he have as much luck with that as he had in Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's possible there are limits to his superpower. Let me get back to and I'll
his
get to Corey.
Superpower is money. And
Right.
there comes a time when people turn around and say, wait a minute, you can't buy this election. At least that's my hope.
Yeah, I think that was the case in Wisconsin. I don't know if that's the case for the rest of the country, as you know. But Trump's reaction to the situation with the Signal app and the communications that were to have been secured.
Disgusting. And his attacks on a federal judge. May I remind you, in that same court, a federal judge by the name of John Sirica was able to expose the Watergate scandal, shut down Nixon, and ultimately cause his resignation. And may I say to you that that is the example that we should be following with federal district court judges. But let me also remind you that you have members of Congress, leading members of Congress, saying, oh, well, these federal district courts are created by Congress. Let's just abolish them. It is the most flagrant action by a Congress as a potential action that I've ever heard.
Well, it's funny that the GOP is okay with a judge in Texas blocking mifepristone, for example, from being mailed nationwide, the abortion pill, if you will. But all of a sudden, when a judge stops Donald Trump's deportation without due process of these Venezuelans, all of a sudden we have an issue with it.
Yes, and now we have an admission they made a mistake. It wasn't just one mistake, it's numerous mistakes. And the idea that a person can be rounded up and deported from this country who is here legally is, to me, absolutely outrageous. And may I make a comment as well about the fact that there are groups that are sharing lists with the administration of people who ought to be expelled. And that includes the people from Beitar, a right-of-center Zionist organization. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. When you are in this country legally, you have the protections. And by the way, even if you're here illegally, you have protections because this is the United States of America. And while I'm at it, let me just tell you something. These roundups that the administration is now pulling off against graduate students, professors, students in general, is a disgrace. Not since the Palmer raids of 1919, when people were rounded up because they were presumed to be communists. And you will recall the Supreme Court, in the ruling that they made in 1920, threw all of that out, said you can't do it. And that was the end of the Palmer raids. I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that in this case. This is a blow to American democracy, unprecedented in our history.
Well, it is regressive without question. I mean, this is a regression. This is he's rolling back the clock in this country and taking away many of the, and doing it honestly with the, I think, tacit congressional approval. They're so cowed by him. taking away a lot of the protections, the legal protections to which you've referred. And so with the Venezuelans, one's a makeup artist who got swept up, another's a soccer
and they're
player
sent to
who got
El
swept up.
Salvador,
Yeah.
to a prison in El Salvador. It's absolutely ludicrous.
And so the rectifying that would seem to be something that would be a priority, but it's actually not the priority of this administration. Their view is, well, you know what? It was an administrative error, but those people are still gang members.
A clerical error, they called it. A clerical error.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there thank you for putting up that picture. This is the person who is in charge of Homeland Security. Look at her standing in front of what is going on in El Salvador. It was one of the most disgusting displays. She should never have been nominated to head Homeland Security.
So for those just listening, that's Christine Nome. It's a picture of Christine Nome that John is talking about, and it's in front of that, those caged prisoners. They're all shirtless behind her. And this is sort of to advertise how tough America is being with these deportations. But as we just noted, they've screwed this up, and you've now deported innocent people, and there's no mechanism by which those people can be taken back. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous.
Not only that, they're running ads. Kristi Noem has cut an ad defending Donald Trump and defending his policies that is now being run on CBS radio here in San Francisco. I want you to know, Mark, if you and I were still at KGO and they tried to run that ad, I would have protested it. I would have said, not on my show. It is a disgraceful use of money by the government to buy these ads to defend Donald Trump. And Kristi Noem is a disgrace all the way around. I mean, I hate to say it, but every day we run into this more and more and more, and it's just very disturbing.
Why didn't you say something about the Cards for Kids ads that ran over and over on your show? I noticed you didn't say anything about those.
Quite the contrary. I can tell you where I protested.
Mark, let me tell you something. If they ever tried to run those Cards for Kids ads on my show, I would have said no.
No, let me explain to you. When they ran a cancer cure on my show, I had it pulled immediately. Cards for Kids you can argue about, but a phony cancer cure is ridiculous. And I think that's a very important point, that we did have a certain amount of power in order to do that. One other point, you will note that the press secretary to the President of the United States said something, her name is Caroline Leavitt, about this issue of Singlegate. She said the case is closed. I heard that, Mark, and I thought seriously of my old colleague Ron Ziegler, who said that Watergate was a third-rate burglary. The absurdity of what is happening is crazy. By the way, we may be selective. We may have stands that we take. When you hear a phony cancer cure, it's very different than Cards for Kids. Cards for Kids is a legitimate charity. You may differ with it. I never had a real bone to pick with them, but I did over phony cancer cures, and I do over this kind of stuff from Kristi Noem.
The Cards for Kids comment was a poor attempt, I guess, on my part.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that.
Let me go back to. Just want to note, because we're on the mistakes of the administration when it comes to deportation. The Nobel laureate and ex-leader of Costa Rica has had his U.S. visa revoked. Oscar Arias Sanchez, twice president of Costa Rica, has been a vocal critic of President Trump. He described Trump as acting like a Roman emperor. And the American government has revoked his visa to enter the country. No reason was given.
It's a disgrace. By the way, you know about this terrible disaster which has taken place in the Far East. And Donald Trump sent 3, let me count them, 1, 2, 3 aid workers. They've shut down AID. AID can't do what it used to do in a vital moment like this. And we're going to see the same thing with the health crises which are taking place. I'm just so mortified by all of this. I can't even begin to tell you. And although I hate to say it, you may have been right when you suggested that what Donald Trump is doing is absolutely unconscionable and wrong. And I happen to agree with you. And I hope that there are ways to put constraints on him.
There is another news story that I think reflects the fact that different groups and constituencies are seizing this moment. It's a moment of weakness in America. you may see it as strength because Trump reps like he's a big, strong guy, and we're going to do this, and we're going to go after you, and I'm going to sue you and sue them. And they, as a result, in government, in the Trump administration, get a lot of people surrendering to them. I get that kind of strength. But the world sees weakness, and they see instability in America right now. And one of the groups that sees it is the Taliban. The Taliban is wanting to reestablish official ties and a presence in the United States. This is a series of conversations that have gone on between this administration and the Taliban. And in talks with American officials in Kabul, the Taliban representatives are attempting to begin a government officially recognized by the U.S. that will be Talibanese,
Absolutely shocking, appalling, unconscionable. Ask any woman who has come out of Afghanistan or is seeing what's happening there, that it's unconscionable. And all the criticism that the Trump people keep making of the Afghanistan withdrawal, I don't know how they could justify it based on their own rhetoric. I mean,
well, just on that point, you always hear about this. Oh, that Biden screwed up the pullout from Afghanistan. The Afghanistan pullout was all wrong. That deal to get out of Afghanistan, made with the Taliban, was made by who? John Rothmann.
J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump, exactly. And he actually had a deadline on it. In other words, he said, we will be, by agreement with you, the Taliban, American troops will be gone by such and such a date. And the date stipulated was a date that would be under the Biden administration. So he really saddled Biden with this and then did a bunch of things that really undercut the administration's ability to exit from Afghanistan in any kind of way that would minimize the kind of risk that we saw.
Mark, I should point out, as you are speaking, in 1 hour, Donald Trump will hold a press conference in the Rose Garden. Let me remind you, he's about to cement over the Rose Garden, a great historical part of the White House. This is a man who's going to stand up and announce tariffs. Already, the Prime Minister of Canada, I don't know if you have the sound on it, but maybe you'll play it at another time, is blasting Donald Trump. Essentially, it's a declaration of war. And the fact that the Republicans, again, I come back to the Republicans in the House and in the Senate, are rolling over and playing dead on this will come back to haunt them. And the sooner, the better.
Lastly, I'm going to just take up you might consider this sort of along the edges of stuff going on in Washington. But, they have this White House Correspondents' Dinner, and they typically have a comedian booked in, kind of a host, an MC, and the comedian does a chunk of stuff. Yeah.
The media should refuse to attend, period.
And why is that?
Because it is a joke. The whole dinner, which, it's not like the Gridiron Dinner, which is a Washington tradition, well-established. In this case, it is the White House effort to manipulate White House correspondents. And White House correspondents should know better. The same thing, may I say, applies to the fact that the AP, the Associated Press, which we use in our news coverage, which Kim uses in her news coverage regularly, has not only been banned from the White House, but is banned from the press pool. Why? Because they still refer to it as the Gulf of Mexico, not the Gulf of America. I keep thinking that if my old friend and colleague Helen Thomas were alive, she would be spitting fire at this point. I regret that she's not here to do what we have to do, which is to affirm the idea of freedom of the press. Mark, they're going to control, the White House wants to control who can sit in the newsroom at the White House, who will be accredited and who will not. This is a blow to our position that is beyond comprehension. And speaking as someone who has been a part of the media, as you are a part of the media, this is something which we absolutely must reject completely. And if that means White House correspondents say, okay, we'll put 3 people in to cover you from now on. That's it. It's over. And he can go to the right-wing press all he wants. But I can only tell you this. It is, to me, as you have pointed out properly, the White House Correspondents' Dinner has been completely perverted by Donald Trump. Well,
this is, I was never a fan of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You've heard me rail against it. I think it's an absolute, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. I know
disgrace.
Well, it's a disgrace because it's a self-congratulatory bunch of bullshit. And the fact is that the playing field has changed. The glad handing and the sort of momentary rapprochement between White House officials, government officials, and the press, it exists in this world. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, they've turned it into a red carpet. It's become a kind of a media event, and I understand why. You have brilliant comedians. You've got the Kimmels, the Colberts of the world, Seth Meyers, etc. You had Larry Wilmore. I mean, you had so many great comics up there doing big chunks, and it is wildly entertaining. There's a sense of kind of getting away from the oftentimes depressing world of Washington politics. But the landscape has changed, and now I don't see this as anything more than self-congratulatory.
And White House correspondents ought to say no.
Yes,
They ought to
exactly.
just
I think
say,
they should
"We are not
disband
going
it.
to
They
attend."
should disband the entire thing. As I say, I was never a fan.
Or may I say, if they really want to have an impact, rent a different place, make it not black tie, and simply meet as a group to discuss the major issues that confront the media in this country.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Mark, I posted on my Facebook page some material about KGO, and I received an overwhelming response. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see the comments people have made about the fact that we are not there, that we no longer can be heard. And there is a deep distress on the part of many of our former listeners who believe that the ability to interact, to debate, to discuss these issues is absolutely critical. And although you are doing yeoman service, and I try to do the same in my podcasts, it is not the same reach as a KGO with 50,000 watts. And by the way, those 50,000 watts are now being used by our former employer, Cumulus, as KSFO now, and as a right-wing talking head point. When I want to hear what Sean Hannity is saying or Mark Levin is saying, I can simply now turn to the 50,000 watt former KGO that is now KSFO. And I'll never say it again because I don't want to plug it. But Mark, it is one of the great American tragedies that talk radio is dead. The idea of interaction, the idea of people dissenting, the idea of being able to raise these issues is so critical. And we are in a real moment of stress because it doesn't exist.
You can find John Rothmann on his podcast. It's called Around the Political World with John Rothmann. He's here on Wednesdays. John, love you. Come visit.
Yeah, may I just say,
week.
and you can find this podcast, Mark Thompson's podcast, but only if you support it. And as Mark just indicated, the last month or two, I guess you've had a bit of a tough time. So if you believe that what Mark Thompson is doing and what we who are contributing, who are not paid for our contribution, we come on voluntarily, that you want to support this kind of effort, you must now click on, hey, put it up there on the screen so everybody can see where they can click up. It's more important than plugging my podcast. I really believe that this is a very important moment, and what Mark is doing is so important and needs to be supported. And I don't just say it because he's my friend, and we may argue about certain things, but where else are you going to have the ability to articulate clearly and precisely? And let me tell you, it's right here on the Mark Thompson program.
The MarkThompsonShow.com, MarkThompsonShow.com, and you can click Patreon or PayPal links to contribute. That is what John is talking about. Thank you, John. You're very kind to mention that.
Of course, not kind, necessary.
Thank you, pal. All the best to you, and we'll see you next Wednesday. John Rothmann, everyone. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is true that somebody pointed out rapprochement, which I believe I did use, is a ding word. It's true. It clearly is a ding word. Bots are more human than Elon and Zuckerberg, says Louis. There is an inhumanity to Elon and Zuckerberg. From Peter Newton, UT Chattanooga is the NIT finalist tomorrow night. And Ovi goes for $8.91. And happy International Fact-Checking Day. Thunderheart is a Kilmer movie for our time. Listen to the wind. Thunderheart was the murder on an Indian reservation. Is that what that was, Peter, I believe? Somebody can tell me, but from memory, that's what I recall.
Google it.
Yeah, somebody can look it up. Millie Marler, thank you for a $5 super sticker. Millie,
Millie.
Thank you, baby.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you. Beth Farmer, thank you, baby. $20
Big
super
shout out.
sticker. Come on now. Good stuff, Beth. Thank you. She's an OG. Appreciate
Doesn't
that.
she have a statue on Thompson Terrace? I think so.
Does Beth have a statue on Thompson Terrace? Does she? I have to go look. I don't have the list in front of me.
Yeah.
A couple have rotated out of our world, but they retain their statues. Once you get your statue on Thompson Terrace in the metaverse, you retain it for life.
Yeah.
So Beth may have one. Thanks for all you do. Love the show. Maggie hits us with, Maggie VT hits us with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mag.
Big shout out.
Appreciate that. Wow. Very cool. Appreciate that. Caroline Levitt is a propaganda puppet. She's awful, says V. Richard. Of course, you're right. Speaking of propaganda, sorry.
She approaches the microphone with a bit of anger. You just see her before she even steps up to the mic. She kind of has this physical presence where she has a chip on her shoulder, and she approaches ready for a fight.
I think Kim is right. She has a sort of disdain for the media.
Yeah. She doesn't step forward going, I'd like to present the facts to you. Here's the facts as we see them and know them, right? She steps up to the microphone, and she's angry already.
Yeah, I don't really care about the mood, anger, or whatever, but I think the inhumanity that she reflects, like on the Venezuelan thing, she says, yep, it was an administrative error or whatever, a clerical thing, and, there's nothing we can do. They're with the Salvadorans now. It's like, what? I mean, it's just extraordinary.
Like, could you contact El Salvador and say, can we have this guy back? Anything?
They never
Nothing?
blink. They just never blink. Meanwhile, Sausalito Steve, thank you. He says thank you with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Sausalito Steve. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Sausalito Steve is one of our OGs, as is West Theory, with a super sticker for $5. Thank you, super stickers and super chatters. Appreciate
Big
that.
shout out.
Makes a big difference in our bottom line. And I do want to reference Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
She was doing this JFK assassination file release thing, right? And during this hearing about these recently released files, she asked the director of, was it the CIA that who did she call before the
I thought it was it Oliver Stone that was there?
Oh, she had literally a movie director there. I saw director. I just assumed it was administrative director. She had Oliver Stone in for it.
I think so.
So Oliver Stone did the movie JFK, as we all know, right? So I'm sorry, I just saw that she was questioning the director, and I thought it was the director of CIA or whatever.
Yeah.
While Oliver Stone was laying out his own JFK assassination theory, here it is, in his 1991 film, JFK, Boebert was apparently unaware of this. She asked him about a book that she claimed he wrote about the assassination and President Lyndon B. Johnson and his disposition toward the assassination. Mr. Stone, you wrote a book accusing LBJ of being involved in the killing of President Kennedy, Boebert asked Oliver Stone. Did these most recent releases confirm or negate your initial charge? Stone was understandably confused by the question.
What?
Quote, being involved in the assassination of President Kennedy? No, I didn't, he said. If you look closely at the film, it accuses President Johnson of being part of a complicit and a cover-up of the case. I'm reading this as a quote. Okay, so if the syntax is a little bit off. In complicit and in the cover-up of the case, but not in the assassination itself, which I don't know. Apparently, Boebert had confused Oliver Stone, the director that she was speaking to, with Roger Stone, who wrote a book called The Man Who Killed Kennedy, the case against LBJ. And said to Boebert, I think you're confusing Mr. Oliver Stone with Mr. Roger Stone. It's Roger Stone who implicated LBJ in the assassination of the president. It's not my friend Oliver Stone.
She got her stones mixed up.
My bad. I'm sorry.
She did admit being wrong, which is an extraordinary thing. Maybe,
in her defense,
maybe the therapy's working out.
Was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
she did come back with, I may have misinterpreted. I apologize.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little apology from Lauren Boebert. That doesn't happen very often.
That does not happen often. It is true. Albert, what is the voting like in Mark's Madness for the first hour, please? We've got to voting till midnight tonight in the posts section of our YouTube channel. Those who are listening, go to posts in our YouTube channel, and you can
post on the YouTube channel. If you're subscribed to the show, it'll be in your subscription box when you just scroll through. But Fauci, don't know, overwhelming so far. But like you said, voting till midnight, and we have our next batch coming up.
Yeah.
You do not know what you are talking about.
That is Fauci, who is going up against, I believe he's going going up against, I believe, my Lord and Savior, right? Donald Trump.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
Yeah, that's it's concepts going up against the Fauci. All right, but it's time. Hour 2.
Now, Mark's Madness. I can't believe it.
Hang on tight, Kim. Settle down. This is what you'll vote on until midnight. You can vote for either.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
Or.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Oh, it's either.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
Or.
What can you tell us about the scene?
AOC versus the King. Only one can win. Good luck. Wow. I don't even know how to handicap that one.
AOC is a very popular pick to win the whole thing by many of the bracket people.
I see. So the bracket people have weighed in with their brackets. They picked AOC to go deep. So this is a very, very big showdown is the point. You can vote until midnight, as I say, in the posts section of our YouTube channel. Hey, Denise, thank you very much. Denise Cat with a $20 super sticker. Big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
Thanks, everybody. It really does help. Every little bit helps. Vote for Larry King, says Kurt. Well, you got to vote in the post section. But I can see where Larry would have his own, his own kind of...
what can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about the scene, Larry? You're trailing AOC. Baby girl leading by quite a bit.
Who's
50 percentage points.
Who's at the top of the leaderboard right now?
Oh, you want to look at the leaderboard real quick?
Yeah, I would like to. I don't think my bracket went very far, but that's all right.
Let me double check while we're kind of filling time. We have a guest coming in.
We have a guest coming, a really great guest, by the way. You've got David Dayen from the American Prospect. He's brilliant, and we'll talk to him. We're going to talk tariffs, among other things. Even if he doesn't show up, I'll talk tariffs with you because there's a lot to know. And I promise you, Trump doesn't know most of it.
You know what else is coming up on Saturday? Is the TikTok deadline. If they're not owned by an American company, then they're supposed to be kaput. And now Amazon is trying to buy TikTok.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I thought would happen. Remember, I predicted that it will go to some, one of these major wealthy tech dudes. They'll buy, it
and it was really funny at that time. A lot of these TikTok content creators, strictly on TikTok, were saying their goodbyes or like they were spoiling their secrets. A lot of them have like a lot of behind the scenes. They were breaking the fourth wall, and it was gone for a little bit, and then it just came back, and they all did it for nothing. But
Well, I said it at the time. TikTok's going nowhere. It's way too important as a marketing thing. There are too many as a mouthpiece for Trump and for every. I mean, there's just no way that you're getting rid of it. I mean, it's just not going to. I'm drinking some Coachella Valley coffee. Excuse me.
I'm drinking my vanilla tea, Coachella Valley tea.
Oh my God, that's so good. That is the best coffee on earth. Get it at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Get the bean that's right for you. Don't we all should get, that's a metaphor. You know what I mean? Kim, Albert, everybody should be with the bean that's best for them.
That's true.
There's the right bean for all of us.
We all have our own best bean.
Exactly. And Coachella Valley Coffee tells you ahead of time the tasting notes, where the beans come from. They're all organic from women-owned farms. They seed these businesses, women-owned businesses in Latin America, Africa, etc. And it is a boutique roastery, hand roasted. So Get yours.
No spaces.
Mark T at checkout. You'll need it 10% off, and you can also enjoy the
a little bit of heaven in your cup, Mark.
A little bit of heaven. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark T at checkout for 10% off, and begin the enjoyment.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. I have been such a fan of David Dayen for so long. I read his stuff. I love his stuff. I love the American Prospect. I get it. I get the printed version. I support the website. I love this guy's writing. I've followed him for years. I'm excited to share him with you. How about it for the great David Dayen, everyone?
Hi, Mark. What a nice introduction. Thank you.
It is true, pal. It is true. I'm a big fan, and I love your takes, and I'll get a couple of, you guys are all over this tariffs thing in a big way at the American Prospect. And you as executive editor, you ride herd over all of this, and I have to think that on one level, it is an exciting time to ride herd over the kinds of things that you have covered for so long, but it's also it's a terrifying time, you know?
Yeah, there's an old quote attributed to some executive editor of The Nation magazine. And the quote goes, "What's bad for the country is good for the nation." And I think we're in that kind of frame of mind right now with respect to the prospect.
Yeah, we're desperate for the takes that you'll get at the American Prospect, et cetera. But sadly, that desperation comes from some horribly difficult times.
I mean, in the last 24 hours, really, we have seen some rays of hope, I think, in the Democratic Party, in obviously these elections in Wisconsin and Florida yesterday, in the dramatic response to Cory Booker's 25-hour peroration on the Senate floor, which may spur some more sort of efforts of resistance within the establishment of the Democratic Party, which I think is absolutely what the public wants. And with today's sort of hint that Elon Musk might be shown the door. So, you know, I think early on there was a lot of despair among Democrats that there wasn't going to be an opportunity to sort of reach some sort of understanding of how to move forward. But I think gradually that's coming together.
Yeah. Early on, I think there was a sense that this is a walkover. The surrender completely of the GOP, you know, the surrender of the media, it seemed, the successful harassment of legal institutions. These were all things that seemed to be proceeding unabated, you know, and even the creation of Doge and Musk and the wrecking ball he took to government. I mean, there's the utter dismantling of government that's gone on. And again, it's completely unabated. So you can understand how one could get pretty dejected pretty quickly. And then, as you 100%. Say, just in the last day, we've seen, you know, the heartbeat, right? We've seen the Democrats have something. You have Booker taking charge the way you should take charge inside the chamber, you know, making a point, and a historic point at that. And then, as you say, the Wisconsin results are indisputable. Do you look at the Wisconsin stuff and even the Florida stuff, David, where, you know, maybe these election returns, while not favoring Democrats, Democrats did better in those showings, even in Florida, than thought. What do you take from that?
I mean, you're seeing a sustained swing between 10 to 12 points, or even more in some cases, toward Democrats. Now, these are special elections. Those swings don't necessarily hold in a general election that has, you know, a lot more interest and more people coming in. And it does seem that Democrats, with its highly educated and engaged electorate, does better these days in these special elections. So we have to keep that in check. But a 10 to 12 point swing from where we were in 2024 would mean something like 50 or 60 new House seats for Democrats. That's what that swing would translate to. So this is bad news for Republicans, and especially because it comes, happy Liberation Day, by the way, Mark. And personally, I think it's getting very commercial, Liberation Day. But
you think the purity of Liberation Day has been lost?
The true meaning. We've lost the true meaning of Liberation Day. But here's the thing: all of this swing is coming before the real economic damage of Trump's policy agenda really takes hold. And I'm talking not just about tariffs and retaliatory tariffs and a trade war that is going to raise prices kind of globally around the world, but also the extreme tax cuts that are going to be funded by massive spending cuts to Medicaid, cuts to food stamps, that is going to just dramatically expand inequality in this country in ways that are socially dislocating. So, the bad news that Republicans are experiencing right now is a prelude to what will continue if they keep going down the path that they're going. And so if we're talking about a 10-point swing now, is that 15 later? Is that 20 later? Are Republicans in safe Senate seats that they think are safe? Are they in trouble after that? That's what you have to ask yourself. And we'll certainly see what happens. There's going to be more special elections down the road.
And the solidarity that we've seen in the last 2 months, I mean, quiet solidarity, or even this kind of ridiculous evangelical solidarity where, I want to make Donald Trump's birthday a national holiday, and I want to put him on the $20 bill. It's like, now get out of my way. I want his whole family to be on American currency. It's crazy. That's kind of the evangelical side. And then I think you have these just scared in the main, the scared GOPers who just sit there on their hands. You think there'll be breaks in that solidarity as some of the stuff that you're talking about begins to happen?
I mean, potentially. And that could result, we have this one big, beautiful bill, right? This reconciliation bill that uses a certain process whereby you can pass something with a majority vote in the Senate. And that's where the vehicle that they want to use to make these tax cuts and then these massive spending cuts to offset the tax cuts, not to offset all of them, but that's a different story. That's where you could see some of this hedging, especially if this drags out, if it gets into the area where the 2023 elections, where you have governorships in Virginia and New Jersey, and you really start to see the impact politically of this destruction of government. That's where, you could see swing seat Republicans with a tenuous hold on their particular constituencies balk at what's going on. So yeah, we could see that. And by the way, it wouldn't take too many, right? I mean, we're in a situation, once we finally get there are 2 empty seats because Democrats have died in the House. So right now it's 220 to 213. When it gets back to 215, which will happen in the coming months, you're talking about a 2-seat cushion. If more than 2 members take a walk on the Republican side, then you can't pass a bill, and that's a big problem for them. It's why Elise Stefanik, who was going to be the UN ambassador under Trump, was yanked from that position because they thought, if we lose that special election, we could be in a situation where we have even less of a cushion in the House. Sure. So, I think that Republicans are very aware that their hold on power is tenuous, and they want to speed up that agenda to get as much done as they can until such time as the political winds catch up with them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, everything's accelerated because they're worried. They see it, and they can see everything turning, and then they won't get anything done. One of the things they've gotten done, and I know this is important to you as well, based on stuff I've read through the years from you, the dismantling of various, even tepid regulatory structures within government, CFPB, I think, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, even within government itself, the inspectors general that have all been dismissed. These are cops on the beat that are really there to protect us Americans. And the CFPB was really doing some real work. I wonder if you could spend a moment on two things. A, the damage done from those things and others. And also, can Humpty Dumpty be put back together again, David? Or how long might that take to reintroduce some of these structures?
Well, what you're seeing is just the end of certain types of regulatory enforcement, particularly of corporate America, not just the financial system, which is contemplated in CFPB, but a whole host of other agencies that are just stopping enforcement. The Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, around investor protections, just a whole host of enforcement. And what you're going to see is the American people left vulnerable to a bunch of scams. And it's interesting you bring this up, because our next print issue in June is going to be entirely about this, about what scams are we going to see if we're in this position where we're just sort of left adrift with no federal regulatory enforcement. So I think it's a big problem. As far as how it can be rebuilt, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that the plan for CFPB was to essentially eliminate it entirely. There was going to be a three-stage process. One was to get rid of these probationary employees, people who have limited sort of civil service protections that are only there for a year. The second step was to get rid of all people in the CFPB, about 1,300 employees under a reduction in force order. And then the third one was just to get rid of everybody remaining, so that you'd essentially have, and this is in declarations that have been submitted to courts, 5 people in a room. There are 5 people who are mentioned in the actual statute. Those positions have to be filled, but none of the other ones have to be filled under the theories of Russ Vought and Project 2025 and all of the people who are doing this. So that was the goal. And they were really stymied at that. An order came out last week that essentially put a preliminary injunction on any firings at CFPB and said that statutory responsibilities, things like the consumer complaint database, where anyone can go in and complain about a financial transaction and get an answer from their bank or their financial institution within 15 days, those things have to be restored. And indeed, Russ Vought and his deputies are restoring some of those duties, or at least they're purporting to. So in terms of, is there going to be a CFPB to come back to if and when Democrats take back the White House? And the answer is yes, at least under the current situation, because there were really smart and capable people who pushed back and got a judge to agree with them that you can't just, from the perch of the executive branch, cancel an agency that was created by Congress. So I do think that there's an opportunity there. We were never going to be in a situation where, if Trump comes in, there was going to be, robust regulatory enforcement across the government, right? But if the structure is there, if the bones are still there, then that can be resurrected, and resurrected rather quickly upon a new administration coming into office.
That's great news. I mean, so by even hanging onto the skeleton of it, you're able to build it back out, potentially.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, even some of the banks and some of the financial players in the industry, they want a CFPB there for a couple of reasons. Number one, there are a handful of dishonest actors in the system and a lot of honest ones. And the honest ones don't want to have to compete with a bunch of dishonest players who are going to profit in unscrupulous ways. The second thing is that regulation is really just a way that a market gets structured. So it's either going to be regulated by the public or regulated by private industry for their own benefit. And the regulations that are made, done by the public that are kind of neutral are ones that actually are required for markets to function. So CFPB puts out a particular set of tables that explains what the interest rates are. They aggregate information across the country and tell you what, the average interest rate on the mortgage is. And that information is really critical to mortgage markets to know how to pin their particular offerings and to know how competition is happening in the market. And so when CFPB was initially destroyed, the banking industry went to Russ Vought and said, "Hey, you're going to publish that weekly thing because the mortgages fluctuate, the rates fluctuate over time. You're going to publish that, right? Because otherwise, we're going to see a seizure in the mortgage market. We're going to see no mortgage activity happen." And so reluctantly, Russ Vought realized, oh, I guess I have to publish this average price offer rate is what it's called, the mortgage table. And that's an example of regulation is actually necessary for markets to function. And I think that's what the Trump team is figuring out. And it's to the benefit of those of us who want to see a strong cop on the beat for protecting consumers.
It's wild to watch the Trump team defend things that they know are indefensible, the tariffs among them. I mean, to hear Lutnick explain inflation and somehow sidestep the effects of tariffs. And I mean, we ran it last week. It was just like the pretzel logic was, I mean, he sounded like a madman, and he's obviously a smart guy. He's just he knows this is BS, but he's trying to, work in these circuitous explanations while also, mentioning Trump in a positive way, et cetera. Yeah.
I think they're trying to calm the markets, calm the stock market, and also, trying to basically pitch the president and move him in particular ways. But, it really, when you look at this tariff agenda, I think we need to be very clear that these aren't really tariffs. I think the better way to think of them is as economic sanctions. That Trump is putting unilateral sanctions on every country in the world and then coming to them and say, hey, if you want to get rid of these sanctions, you got to talk to me and you got to give me something. So it's really more like when a mob boss comes into a particular community and says, hey, I'm running this street now, and you better give me some protection money or else you're going to have problems with your business. And that's what this is like. There's no sort of overarching kind of strategic idea about bringing industry back to the United States. It's just sanctions. And it's just this sort of mob-like tendency to want to break some legs and then ask for protection money so you don't get your legs broken again. That's what this is about.
And such a good explanation. And that's exactly, it's funny, these tariffs, typically, or any kind of trade agreement, is forged over months and months of diplomatic exercises, right, David? I mean, this is not this kind of fiat from one guy. I understand he's president, but it's just, he doesn't even, from what I can tell and reading all morning, he's not even clear on what the tariffs are going to be at 4:00 this afternoon. I mean, he could literally make it up in the moment.
I guess we're a half hour away from that. And,
right, exactly.
I haven't seen a whole lot on what exactly is going to transpire, but I think that if the incoherence, as you talk about, is what's creating this massive drive in economic uncertainty, and that is pretty bad for economies generally. When a business wants to plan out their system for the rest of the year, and they're looking at their costs and they're looking at what their estimated sales are. If they don't know if their input cost is going to be X or X plus 20% because there's some kind of tariff on it, and it changes from day to day, they can't invest. They can't make decisions on the business. They're essentially paralyzed. And that's what we're seeing across the economy. I've seen reports from, Federal Reserve banks and other, analysts that look at the economy, and that's the overarching problem right now is this uncertainty. And I don't know that what we're going to get in a half hour is going to give any clarity on that, really. And if it doesn't, then it creates this same kind of vicious economic cycle. The other thing working against Trump, of course, is that tariffs now have been successfully branded as taxes in the public mind. Doing wholesale across the board tariffs actually does create that tendency. If you do targeted tariffs and like Biden did, and pair them with investments in the types of manufacturing that you want to see, or the types of domestic industry, the types of domestic investments you want to see, these can work. But massive across the board tariffs are going to raise the price level. And people's expectations of inflation have gone through the roof. So they're the highest in years. And what happens in an economy is inflation expectations often become inflation reality. Because if you're a business and you see, my consumers next year think that prices are going to go up 5%. I'm going to put prices up 5% because that's what they're expecting anyway. So I might as well, move to where my customers are. And that's how you get inflation often. It's this vicious spiral upward. And so that should really worry the Trump team, that they have bungled this message to the degree that everyone expects prices to go way up. And that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I love that you mentioned the psychological aspect, because it's a real thing in economics that, as you say, that spiral can really happen. Hey, I'm running out of time, and I just wanted to mention a great piece that you did, and it's sort of related to what we're talking about, which is the monopolies and monopolization of mortgages, and you do something in American Pie. Just give us a preview, and then I'll link to it at the bottom of this video.
Oh, terrific. So the CFPB, in addition to trying to fire a bunch of people and stopping enforcement, stopping various activities that it's constitutionally required, or not constitutionally, but statutorily required to do, Russ Vought he dropped a case against a company called Rocket Mortgage. And the case was involving Rocket Mortgage illegally steering brokers and saying, hey, if you want to work with us, you have to push our products, and you have to not give information to borrowers who aren't signed up with us about other mortgage products that might be more competitive or better for their particular situation. And so last December, CFPB filed suit. They had documentary evidence. They had literally documents from Rocket Mortgage going out and saying, you are not allowed to steer any business away from Rocket Mortgage. I mean, it's pretty black and white. What Russ Vought does is he drops this case. He basically dismisses the case. He says, we're not going to pursue it any longer. Within days of that, Rocket Mortgage buys Redfin, which is a sort of online sales search engine and brokerage. And then just this week, it bought a company called Mr. Cooper, which is a mortgage servicing company. And what Rocket is doing is trying to create a sort of end-to-end distribution on mortgages. Through Redfin, you'll see a house. That's a Rocket company. You will then get referred into brokers who have to push Rocket mortgages. You'll get a Rocket mortgage. There are closing costs, obviously, affiliated with the mortgage. It's a closing. Rocket has closing materials. And then when you have to do the day-to-day kind of monthly payments and everything, they'll have a servicer available to do the monthly payments too. So the lack of enforcement actually gave the green light for Rocket to create a vertically integrated business that kind of shepherds you through every step of the mortgage process. And it's kind of been blessed as legal by the dropping of this case by CFPB. And the result is going to be higher mortgages for everybody, higher mortgage prices, higher closing costs, and lack of competition and choice, which is going to lead to the same thing.
Sure. You have one company controlling it all. Absolutely insane. Great piece by David Dayen in the American Prospect. We'll link to it under this video. And some love for you. Jane O says, great guest. Thank you, MTS. Yes, I knew you'd love David. So come back and visit again. Will you please, David Dayen?
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. Thanks a lot.
I'd love it. Okay.
Thanks,
the American Prospect. We'll look forward to reading your stuff. David Dayen, everybody. See you, man. Good stuff. He's so good.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes, the time is short. We are in the middle of Mark's Madness, as you know. 2 drops going up against each other. The commissioner is here today. There's a sense of anticipation. There's a sense of trepidation. There's a sense of enthusiasm. All of those senses together. This hour, it's AOC's baby girl, which is called by many to go deep in this competition.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even
It's
play.
going up against Larry King's The Scene.
What can you tell us about The Scene?
Yeah, those are tough. And in the first hour, it looks like Fauci in a walkover over Trump, saying that he has concepts of a plan. Is that what he said? I mean, like, you do have a plan?
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
Right, but Fauci is killing him with the.
That sounds like a parent.
Know what you are talking about.
He sounds like what?
The Trump concept sounds like a parent asking their kid if they did their homework. Like, well,
absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that with Trump. All right, Albert and Kim. I need to get to Belinda. I'm pretty sure, don't I? Looking at the
yes, she is standing by, and I'm
big
also
hand is on
by.
and the little hand is on the. So yes, so without any further delay, let's do it. We like to look at the environment and the Earth, and we do it in a segment that we call "It's the Planet." Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid.
No. It's the planet, stupid.
Our guide through the I was going to say confusing world of the environment. It is confusing. It's sad, but it's also uplifting. Yeah. She does it all. How about Belinda Waymouth, everyone? Eco-journalist, always filled with good news whenever possible. Sometimes not possible.
Today it's so possible.
I love it. Get me started with some good news, Belinda. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. Okay, so it is uplifting, literally what we're going to talk about. Aerial rhino rescue, people. Helicopters have been used for incredibly destructive things, and they were used or have been used by rhino poachers, but they are now being used in this incredible aerial rescue of endangered black rhinos. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a rhino being hoisted upside down by a helicopter. It has been tranquilized. It's got some opioids on board, so it's not completely cognizant of the crazy thing that's happening to it. But so this has been being developed over the last few decades, and it's really amazing because rhinos, the black rhinos in particular, they were down to less than 2,500 rhinos. And we're now at 6,500, more or less, which is really so fantastic. So what used to happen to a rhino was they would chase it on the ground. They would shoot it with tranquilizers. It would fall over. It would take 20 minutes to come to. They would have to get an enormous, they're 1.5 tons. They're absolutely huge, these herbivores. They would have to get it into a crate, and then they would drive it across bumpy, terrible roads. It could have difficulty breathing in the crate. It could get horn and muscle damage. And these very innovative conservation scientists were like, there's got to be a better way, and there's got to be a faster way to do this. And so helicopters. Now, the amazing thing about what they're doing is it's super fast. So the Huey is a Vietnam helicopter. Some of the helicopters that are being used in Africa, by the way, are still bullet ridden. They're from Vietnam. They've got the attachments where the guns used to be. So they've been used for these incredibly destructive purposes, and now they're being used for these incredible rescues. I mean, look at this.
Wow.
So what's really amazing, and it looks crazy, but they put these very soft bands around each ankle of the rhino. What they worked out was when they put a rhino on a wooden platform and lifted it up into the air, it would spin. And then they tried nets, and the nets also span, and they had metal in them, so they were super heavy. Now you've already got a 1.5 ton animal that you're lifting up. So they worked out if they do it this way, it's much kinder. Yeah, this was not good. This was not good. And you can see the rhinos in a weird position.
Yeah, we're showing it's for those just listening, it's a rhino in a net. This is
a rhino in a net.
We're showing the former ways in which they tried to.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, for people who are just listening. Yeah, so they're being hoisted up by the helicopter. So when you do it just with the bands around the animal's ankles, and then on obviously a very thick solid strap, the rhino's head, as you can see, and neck sort of bend backwards, and that means its spine straightens. Anatomically, this is the kindest way to move a rhino. This is the easiest way for them to breathe. And then their glorious, the horns, which are what they're being poached for. Those act like a tail feather, like a little weather vane, and they actually stop the rhino from spinning. So aerodynamically, this is the winning way to move your black rhino, ladies and gentlemen. I know it sort of seems completely antithetical. And one of the things I love, I think it's really funny. So this innovation won an IG Nobel Prize. And the IG Nobel Prizes are, they're a satirized Nobel Prize. They're an innovation that makes you laugh and then sort of go, oh, wow, this is amazing. Now, the thing that's incredible is, you've got these rescuers on the ground, you've got vets, you've got this whole crew working for this to happen. It's about a 10 or a 30-minute ride to the next location. And it's super humane and it's super quick. Like the Huey has windows. This makes it perfect for conservation and also firefighting. The Huey helicopter has windows that are underneath the pilot, so they can easily see where oh man, just look at this. Everyone, we're watching a helicopter, the rhino just being gently, taken, landed back on Earth.
Yeah, placed on the ground after that trip. And it's a heavy creature, and it's being hoisted by its ankles. I hope that it seems like so much weight on those ankles, but I guess the creature can take it, huh? I mean, that's pretty much the only other option.
This is the thing that they've worked out, is this is the most humane way to do it. A crate on the back of a bouncy truck, not good. This way they can breathe, their horns and their muscles don't get damaged. And then also, the amazing thing is once you have tranquilized the rhino, you can get a satellite tracking device. They put it in their horns. So the thing, it's sort of all of these ironies, the thing they get poached for now is the part of their bodies where the satellite tracking device goes in. So they can monitor them. They can move them out of what's so hard for rhinos now is they're in these very small little pockets of private or public reserves, and they're protected there. But if the populations grow too much, you get inbreeding, and then the females will actually reduce the amount of calves they produce because they look about and they can see, the resources here, there aren't enough for my babies. So they slow down in their calving rate. So by moving them around, you can take aggressive young rhinos, you can get them to areas, where they're needed. You can stop the inbreeding. You can put, tracking devices in them. They say translocation is the biggest tool in conservation of rhinos. So, visually it's a treat, and it's the kindest way to do it to the animals. And
fascinating. They're so endangered there. It's such a world filled with sad news on the rhinos. You're right. This is great. This good news, this location and relocation program is successful. That's just terrific. I love that you have that news. What else do you have?
Yeah. Okay. So now bringing it back to the US, because the US is in need of some good news. I mean, we had some amazing news yesterday, but so in Colorado, they have become the leaders in what we call animal bridges and tunnels. They're wildlife crossings. So we either put them over a freeway or a busy road or under the freeway. Colorado, since 2015, has put in 28 of these wildlife crossings, and they are unbelievable, because what happens is when the scientists put them in, they then worry, will the animals find them? Will they know that they're there? Well, the animals find them right away. There was one that they put in southwestern Colorado, and when the researcher went, after a couple of, the first couple of weeks, like, is it working? There were already elk prints. They were already, yeah, we found it. Thank you very much. We found it and we're using it. We're getting safely across the freeway. And they have to do ones that go below, ones that go above, because different animals like different things. Like big animals like your elk and your moose, they don't want to go in a tunnel. It doesn't feel good to them. They prefer being in the open, so they like to go, cross above. But everyone's using it.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's very species specific. But you've got black bears, coyotes, you've got your elk, you've got deer, moose, mountain lions, even otters. There's a video that I said that maybe you could show, Albert, which shows all the different animals that Colorado is having success with. And how they work this out is they look at a really busy part of a freeway, like where are there 3 deer collisions per 1 mile of freeway in a year? Or with elk, which are bigger and cause more damage, where is there 1 elk car collision per mile per year? And that's where they target to put, the tunnels or the bridges in. And it's just, it's really, we're the ones who are causing all this habitat fragmentation, and we're the ones who are encroaching on where they lived. And it's the same for the rhino. And so we're now having to, it's our responsibility to come up with these solutions to help these animals out, because it's so awful what's being done. And the carnage that people were seeing in Colorado, when you see roadkill on the side of the road, when it's a great big animal, super scary. Yeah, here are the coyotes. Coyotes, use them daily. They're just like, yeah, this is how I get around now. And then for animals, I do it every day. It's my commute. And then for animals like the elk, so in the summer they're in higher land, in higher elevations, and in the winter they go down lower where it's warmer. So it's just cool. And this, I do have to, the thing is, these wildlife crossings, they should be completely, not a political issue. See, they know, they see where they are. And it's not just, you can see here, this actually shows it really well. It's not just that you have the bridge, you have to have fencing on the other side of the bridge to get the animal, back into habitat where they'll be safe. And this is a nonpartisan thing, obviously, because these are amazing and everyone loves big animals. But unfortunately, we have an administration that is threatening funding to all these different federal and state agencies. So the Department of Transport, the Department of Wildlife in Colorado, which is part of the funding mechanism here. Are they going to have enough money to keep going with the projects? So that is an issue, and I want everyone to think about that when they're voting. And I'm going to say that, as often as I can, because this is important. This is really important. And here in California, the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing, it's called, it's at Liberty Canyon on the 101. So some people call it the Liberty Bridge, but Wallace-Annenberg, thank you, took over the funding of it. And it's going to be ready in 2026. It is going to be the biggest wildlife crossing. It has to cross the 101. So that's 8 lanes of traffic. It's going to be absolutely enormous. They're planting natives on either side. So the animals, the noise from the freeway and the visuals of it, that those will be as obfuscated as much as possible.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that Belinda's talking about, because they are creating a kind of corridor that's not just a concrete overpass. It's almost a habitat, so that it will, as you say, screen out the stuff around it. I only know this because I, read about it in the local paper type thing. Yeah. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful, and it's huge. Yeah, so there's a artistic rendition, rendering of it, and this is
that's the best of humanity right there. The taking a problem, and you're right. It is good news that in us, in this destructive, greedy species that we are, that as we've just destroyed this planet in the ways that we have and eliminated so many species, that we at least find the humanity to create these spaces to try to give these creatures a chance, as you say, as their habitats are so fragmented. It's really it's inspiring, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I think it is inspiring. And one of the things is, we relate to big fauna because, sort of we're a big, well, we're the biggest in terms of, our impact. But we're good to big fauna, and we need to think about this when we're dealing with lesser fauna or unseen fauna. That
will the predators learn that those are choke points for their prey? How about that, Belinda?
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's always going to be prey, but that's the animal kingdom, and so I mean, deer and elk are I mean, you've got your mountain lions and your bobcats, they're using it too, but it's not like these wildlife crossings become areas of carnage. I mean, they're all out there living together, and there are places where they have to cross and their paths converge. I mean, they're smart, and that's unfortunately, part of it all. And I've never, ever read anywhere of that being oh my goodness, we created this wildlife crossing and suddenly
but it just might work.
right.
Yeah. But thank you for raising that. But yeah, it is the best of us. And I wanted to share something that was uplifting and good.
I love it. I really do. I love it. Thanks for the good news. Belinda says Valley Star. People grateful for some good news today.
Yeah.
From Belinda.
Well,
good
here's the thing, I keep saying this to you guys, and it's really true that, we're in this, kind of crazy moment, and people I know are very uncertain about what is going to happen as far as, our switch to renewables and all the, the good things that were happening under the last administration. Just know, people, this is still happening. It is still happening. It's, there are efforts being made to really stop it. And obviously, the Trump administration is putting a spanner in the works, but this is not stopping because this is, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. Money-wise, to be using renewable energy. So many projects are happening, in spite of. And then we are doing these amazing things with rhinos and our elk and moose and otters and all the animals.
I think you frame it perfectly, which is just because, the headlines are not there, there's still good stuff going on. And it's good to spend a moment recognizing that. You can find Belinda across social media. Belinda Waymouth is Waymouth. She's an eco-journalist. She has a lot of good content. Follow her across all the various social media outlets and find her here on Wednesdays. Belinda, thank you for some good news, uplifting. There is a bounce in my step as a result of this today. Thank you.
You are welcome, Mark. And more next week. Okay?
Belinda Waymouth, everybody. Thanks, Belinda.
Bye-bye.
That's It's the Planet Stupid for today.
More.
It's the Planet Stupid.
No. It's the Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
She had good stuff today. I felt good about it. I feel like that humanity's doing something good for the planet instead of just
rhino
plundering.
Pictures were awesome. Yeah.
The pictures are really powerful. Belinda is great. Love her input, says.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Belinda Rose. Yeah. Thank you, Belinda. A lot of thanks, Belinda. Belinda, thanks. Thanks, Belinda. Belinda, thanks, Belinda. Belinda, thanks. A lot of that. All right, so I can't read all of them, but we'll put a few up on screen. I know you're wondering, what's the situation with Mark's Madness? So let's quickly go to the leaderboard. The commissioner of Mark's Madness is with us today. It is Albert.
Albert, thank you.
Take us through what you have, please.
Yeah, Travis Black is the new leader, tied with our Friday usual guest,
Michael Snyder. Wow, how about that? Snyder is in first place right now with Travis Black. Man. And then you have Amy and Matt, who was atop the leaderboard for some time.
And what's interesting to note here is that they all had different projected champions that they selected. So it seems like it'll be clear soon on what moves on.
Right, exactly. That's why you're seeing the projected totals best possible, you see right there, best pos. That is the best possible total that this person can get based on their bracket picks. And that's why Travis and Michael are at the top. And then it begins to drop because certain picks in that person's bracket have been eliminated. And as a result, they wouldn't have the chance to score as many points. It's very interesting, actually. But this is really...
So exactly. So Matt right here, who's number 4, had the last remaining perfect bracket, but one of his selections didn't move on, and it kind of crippled his bracket to an extent because his best possible is at 44. But once we start getting to the Elite 8 and closer to the finals, I'll get more into it.
We are in the Sweet 16 right now. Where are Kim and myself, Albert? If you could go back down the list here a little farther, a little farther. Mark Thompson.
So sad.
I've only missed 2, but
you missed 4.
Oh.
What? You missed 4, but you got 12 correct, which is a 75%. Which is
thank you,
really
Albert,
good.
for making
Not so bad,
yeah.
That's not fake. That's real.
Okay.
What
about
way
Kim? Let's
down
see
the
how
list.
Kim did.
Keep scrolling. Scroll on, friend.
Kim for her first outing, really.
Not good.
Yeah, like right here, I'm 10-6, so.
Oh,
yeah,
you're
so
10-6?
Albert's not doing
not
that
bad.
great at 10-6. Well,
I'm not even on the first page.
Kim's on down.
Wow. Forget it.
I don't know. Well, I mean,
I blame you.
Okay, maybe it's my fault somehow.
Exactly what I blame.
Well, thank you. We will continue to watch that. And how many participants in total? I think there are 300 something who have registered, but I don't know how many actually had brackets this year.
I think close to 100.
Close to 100, yeah.
The participants.
So anyway, pretty cool. That's your March Madness. Tomorrow, 2 others go off against each other. We'll have those for you tomorrow. It's late. I leave it to you, Kim. You can decide whether you'd like to give us some news, some turbo news, or whether you'd like to just move on to your after-party responsibility, whatever you'd like. I'm happy to hang out. I have a doctor's appointment for my hand, but I'm also, it's not till later. So I'm happy to hang out. Before you answer, I just want to say that we appreciate your work. You work on this show tirelessly. A lot of the work that you've done is not seen by the audience. A lot of it is obscured by my coffee drinking.
The news that would have happened on the Mark Thompson Show is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Yeah. Pamela Kirby, put that back up there, Albert. What was the Pamela Kirby thing? Pamela Kirby with a $20 super chat says, love it when you call me OG. Thanks to Kim, Albert, and Tony, too. Pamela, you are an OG.
Yes,
and a
you
big
are.
shout out to you.
Big shout out.
Pamela Kirby with $20 into the coffer. We need to... I love this. I wrote an article about the importance of wildlife corridors many years ago, says Joan Hollywood. Oh, that's cool. Wow. Joan Hollywood competing for the coolest name in our chat.
Love it.
Yeah, we have some cool names, though. We do have some cool names.
They put one of those corridors, wildlife corridors, in the town of Davis, and it's a underneath an overpass, and it's for frogs. So it's a little frog tunnel.
That is
Cool.
super great.
Yeah.
We've got to get some pictures of that for tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. What would you like to do, Kim?
Let's move on.
You don't want to respond to Rich, who says Turbo News?
Okay, I'll do Turbo News. That's fine. I have it
Kim,
written.
3-minute news. Kim
3-minute
says
news.
Janice.
Let's slam it out.
All right. Slam it out. You smash the like button if you would. I haven't asked you to do
with
it all
your
day.
iron rod.
Please do it. It helps us in the YouTube universe. And I think we've had a really good show. So I hope you'll smash it.
With your iron rod.
And you can share videos across your social media. That really helps grow our footprint. The more you share, costs you nothing. It really does help. All right. Kim's news. And then we will wrap up around here. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's Turbo News, Kim. 3-minute news. I love it. Let's do it.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kit McAllister, and this report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Today is America's Liberation Day. Do you feel a little more free, a little more liberated? Oh, Yeah, you smell the freedom. Well, the new tariffs are expected to take effect against Canada, Mexico, China, and the European Union. So Trump is marking his executive orders with an event in the Rose Garden dubbed Make America Wealthy Again. Trump expecting $5 trillion in U.S. investments after his tariffs take effect. Others say the tariffs will do nothing but make the economy worse. Reports say President Trump is telling his cabinet that Elon Musk could be taking a step back from his current role in the administration sooner rather than later. The reports come after the tech billionaire's super PAC spent millions in a losing effort to get their Republican-backed candidate on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Musk has repeatedly said he'll leave his position at Doge within his 130-day mandate as a non-governmental employee around May 30th. The sentiment was backed up by the White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt today, who calls the reports garbage. The federal corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams being dismissed. A federal judge tossing the case this morning at the urging of the Department of Justice under President Trump. The Trump administration argued the corruption charges brought against Adams while Joe Biden was president were in retaliation for Adams' outspoken position against illegal immigration. The charges were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they cannot be brought up against Adams again. The FDA maintaining the right to withhold approval of new flavored e-cigarettes. The Supreme Court tossed an appeals court ruling that said the agency unlawfully changed the approval rules during court proceedings when deciding to approve certain flavored products. In a unanimous ruling, the justices said the FDA can refuse approval based on health concerns. Last night's elections resulting in apparent victories for both parties. Democrat-backed Judge Susan Crawford is the winner of the open seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The race became the target of millions spent by groups linked to Elon Musk. Hunter Biden will be permanently stripped of his law license in Washington, D.C. The son of former President Biden agreed to consent to disbarment in an affidavit filed today after a recommendation from a disciplinary agency. The D.C. Court of Appeals must now accept the recommendation then to accept Biden's consent to disbarment before making it official. His law license was suspended last year after he was found guilty in a Delaware federal court of lying about drug use when buying a gun.
Yeah, I don't, again, I think it's sort of a footnote to it all. Yeah,
it is. The NFL is changing its overtime rules. At the annual league meeting today, owners voted in favor of giving both teams the opportunity to possess the ball during the regular season. The teams also approved a proposal to move touchbacks up to the 35-yard line. The tush push and the playoff seeding votes are being tabled for a later date. So,
Albert, Kamish, I'm sure you want to weigh in on this. I think this is a good rule, the overtime rule. Yeah.
Good rule for the overtime. We got to get rid of that tush push. The tush push is very corny, very cheesy, and it's. I mean, I guess one team mastered it, but
two
it's
teams.
Just not football.
One team. It's interesting. I thought the Eagles mastered it above everyone, but then I was looking at the statistics, and the Bills have a better, just by a few percentage points, a better success rate. And the irony of that is that I think it was their undoing in the playoffs that they kept trying that same move over their left tackle. You know what I'm talking about, or the left guard on that left side. Yeah. But in any case, I'm with Albert. I don't know. On the one, this is part of.
I just feel there's so many rules against the defense, and to have like your whole offense stack in the middle and literally push your whole, like, I guess like rugby scrum type of play. It's how can a defense stop that? It's just tough.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a bitter Niners fan, so
it's been tabled anyway. So plenty of time to weigh in on it.
This is the news everyone really needed today. The Nintendo Switch 2 is hitting shelves on June 5th. It costs $449 for the console and everything that comes with it, but you can upgrade to $500 for the version that comes with Mario Kart World. Yes, this new device will be a bigger and faster version of the original Switch. The controllers, called Joy-Cons, now attached to the screen with magnets. They can work with a mouse when used on a table. The original Switch sold 150 million units since its release in 2017.
Wow.
So Nintendo Switch 2 on the way, June 5th.
Big news. Love
There
it.
you go. This
Mhm.
report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. This little heaven dropped right in your Mark Thompson Show coffee mug. And so good. From your Ocotillo espresso to your vanilla bean iced tea. Oh, it's the good stuff. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Fresh beans, celebrating women-owned farms. Get your exclusive Mark Thompson Show discount by typing in Mark T, no spaces at checkout in the code box, and you get 10% off. Hooray!
We do have a Why Are You Yelling? Albert's showing it now. A Why Are You Yelling decaf.
Why are you yelling?
Comes out of Peru. So.
Is that what you're drinking today?
No, I'm drinking the Ocotillo espresso, but I love that decaf that comes out of Peru.
Why are you
I
yelling?
need to get more of that in my system.
I love it when you say Ocotillo espresso.
Ocotillo espresso.
Thank you. Yeah.
Fabuloso.
Uh-huh. Yeah. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and that was that 3 minutes? I don't know. That was the news.
Than 3 minutes.
Yeah, well,
you did a nice
tried.
job.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
All right. We've had a great day. I want to recognize with our eyes rise with a $10 super chat. It says, "Hi, Mark. You left us a voicemail a while back. In the 2018 TYT Amplify campaign, we paid to name Jank's iPad Green Lover's Dream. See the real Wakanda and at Green Lover's Dream. Peace rise," they say, from With Our Eyes Rise. I don't remember that. But I love it. It's a great idea for the voicemail message. Maybe we could use that in a fundraising effort. We got to get something organized, but that's good. Thanks for the $10 super chat nonetheless. And Shadow, if you would, please.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
After Party Live is next. Thank you, Kamish. Thank you, Kim.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We appreciate it. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.